Hello, beautiful souls. Today is day 3 of the Deartime challenge, and today I'm going to be reading a story from this book, Teaching Stories by Jamuna Rangachari. This is a book which is very dear to me, and I'm reading this story, The Prisoner in the Dark Cave. There was once a man who was sentenced to die. He was blindfolded and put in a pitch dark cave. The cave was 100 yards by 100 yards. He was told that there was a way out of the cave, and if he could find it, he was a free man. After a rock was secured at the entrance to the cave, the prisoner was allowed to take his blindfold off and roam freely in the darkness. He was to be fed only bread and water for the first 30 days and nothing after that. The bread and water were lowered from a small hole in the roof at the south end of the cave. The ceiling was about 18 feet high. The opening was about 1 foot in diameter. The prisoner could see a faint light up above, but no light came into the cave. As the prisoner roamed and crawled around the cave, he bumped into rocks. Some were large, rather large. He thought that if he could build a mold of rocks and dirt that was high enough, he could reach the opening and enlarge it enough to crawl through and escape, since he was 5'9" and his reach was another 2 feet. The mound had to be at least 10 feet high. So the prisoner spent his waking hours picking up rocks and digging up dirt. At the end of 2 weeks, he had built a mound of about 6 feet. He thought that if he could duplicate that in the next 2 weeks, he could make it before his food ran out. But as he had already used most of the rocks in the cave, he had to dig harder and harder. He had to do the digging with his bare hands. After a month had passed, the mound was 9.5 feet high, and he could almost reach the opening if he jumped. He was almost exhausted and extremely weak. One day, just as he thought he could touch the opening, he fell. He was simply too weak to get up, and in 2 days he died. His captors came to get his body. They rolled away the huge rock that covered the entrance. As the light flooded into the cave, it illuminated an opening in the wall of the cave above 3 feet in circumference. The opening was the opening to a tunnel which led to the other side of the mountain. This was the passage to freedom the prisoner had been told about. It was in the south wall directly under the opening in the ceiling. All the prisoner would have had to do was crawl about 200 feet and he would have found freedom. He had so completely focused on the opening of light that it never occurred to him to look for freedom in the darkness. Liberation was there all the time, right next to the mound he was building, but it was in the darkness. So the comment here is, I love the story because the author writes, this is Jamuna Rangachari, she writes, I love the story because it highlights a powerful truth. We need to look at the darkness within us, which I interpret to be the parts of ourselves that we reject or refuse to look at. This looking is what causes the darkness to disappear and the light of the inner self to dawn. We can only reach the light if we are willing to work our way through the darkness. All too often, we look for answers outside ourselves, for others to show us the way. But usually, these turn out to be cul-de-sacs leading nowhere. It is rare that we learn to trust our own inner voice and move along the direction it suggests. And it is rarer still to actively confront our own darkness and learn what it has to teach us. But the darkness is our most powerful teacher. And it is the darkness that holds imprisoned our strength, beauty, and happiness. So let's, reflect on the story. And I relate a lot to the reflections which are given at the end of the story. I hope you must have already begun your Deartime journey. If you haven't, you can start from today, and there is no specific time to read. You can read it at any time. Today, I'm reading this in the evening. right? This story in the evening. All the best. Happy reading and happy dear time. If you like the video, do subscribe to my YouTube channel and also mention the comment section about your experiences. All the best.